Welcome back to the English Daily Podcast, where we explore fascinating stories behind the words and phrases we use every day. I'm your host, Liv Morgan, and today, we're diving into the origins of two words that are not only common in English but have traveled across the globe: orange and tea. We'll uncover how these words evolved through trade routes, cultures, and languages. Stay tuned as we journey through history, exploring how these everyday words came to be.
Podcastandenglish.com, we're talking about the origins of two very common English words.
Yeah. So, in general, the word for the fruit orange has three forms, variations of those forms. So you have either the word orange, Portugal, or applesin.
All right, Jackie. So where does the actual fruit come from then?
Oranges, like all citrus fruits, come from Asia, South China, North India. And it was the Arabs who were the first to import the oranges into Europe. And the Arabic word for orange is naranj.
Okay, so it's arancia in Italian, naranja, is it? Laranja in Spanish, orange in French, and of course, orange in English.
Exactly. No, but then what's interesting is the Portuguese, also big explorers and merchants, they brought the sweet orange to Europe. So many languages call the fruit after them. So in Turkish, it's portokalo.
Portobello?
Right? In Bulgarian, it's portakal, right? And in Arabic, for the sweet orange, it's bortukal. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Wow. But you also mentioned applesin.
Yes, that simply means apple from China, and it's used in countries like Germany, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Russia.
Now, I've got a drink that only, as far as I'm aware, has two words.
Right.
It's tea or cha, possibly chai as well.
Yeah, variations of those words, right?
And again, it's to do with the origin of the word and the trade routes.
Right.
Okay, so obviously tea again comes from the Far East and China. Both words actually come from the Chinese, but obviously, as you know, they've got different dialects. Now, chai is produced in one dialect, and that one came through the Silk Road, okay, through the land routes to Russia.
Through Central Asia, then?
Central Asia to Russia and Eastern Europe, so they all say chai.
Okay.
But the Brits, of course, we call it tea, and that comes from the Dutch. And they got it from the coast of China, from South China, where their dialect, they used the word tea or te.
Okay, so what route did the Dutch take then?
Well, there was the sea route through Indonesia, India, Southern Africa, and Europe.
Okay, so that's why they all say tea there.
Indeed, and that's why we say tea in most of Europe.
Why is it, therefore, here in Portugal, it's an exception? They don't say tea.
They say cha, because obviously the Portuguese were great traders as well, and they got their tea or chai from Macau, where they use the word cha.
It's interesting, isn't it, Richard? Because people complain that nowadays globalization is a new concept and everything is becoming very similar throughout the world. But this is such a good example of two words, the tea or the cha, which nearly everyone uses. And that's because hundreds of years ago, the goods were either spread overland or traded by seafaring Europeans.
And actually, I do think there is one word which everyone uses throughout the world.
Ah, yes.
Well, I've certainly never been to a country where it was not used, the word taxi.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the English Daily Podcast, where we explored the rich history behind the words orange and tea. Before we go, let's take a moment to break down some interesting idioms and expressions connected to these words.
First, the phrase "a bitter pill to swallow"
can be linked to the tea drinking culture. Tea, especially green tea, was originally quite bitter in taste, and this idiom refers to something unpleasant or difficult to accept, much like drinking unsweetened tea might have been for some.
Next, spill the tea.
is a modern expression that means to gossip or reveal secrets. It shows how tea has become a social activity associated with sharing stories or juicy details, just like sitting down for a chat over a cup of tea.
4. Orange.
We often hear the expression to compare apples and oranges, which means to compare to very different things. This reflects how oranges, though part of the citrus family, are distinct from apples, making any comparison between them unreasonable or unfair.
And finally, the phrase, not my cup of tea,
is a classic English idiom meaning something that is not to someone's liking. Just like different people prefer different types of tea, not everything suits everyone's taste.
I hope these phrases add a little extra flavor to your English vocabulary. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. I'm Liv Morgan, and this is the English Daily Podcast, where every word has a story.